Need some coins to that God Squad you've always wanted? Check out mudpacks.com where you guys can open up exciting packs, win tons of mud coins, and withdraw the coins to your account. Use code ZERK for 15% off.
The whole thing wobbin', wobbin'. When I come around, got the whole thing wobbin'.
We continue the tradition of the yearly NFL playoff predictions on the channel. This year, of course, is the 2022 to 2023 NFL season, which we have been hitting at a historical pace with the correct picks. Let's get into it. All right, so let's hop right into my NFL playoff predictions for this year. Starting off, we'll go on the AFC side at the bottom to start it off. We have the Dolphins taking on the Bills. Now, number one, I will let you guys know I'm recording this video Sunday night, so I don't even know if Tua's actually even going to be the starting QB. It is also, of course, going to be in Buffalo, where it's going to be a little bit cold, and even if Tua is the starting quarterback, he just doesn't seem to play that well in the cold. So to be honest, guys, Bills versus the Dolphins. To me personally, I see the Bills winning this all the way. Absolutely see the Bills winning this. If Tua's starting, he just doesn't play good in the cold. And if Tua isn't starting, then that's not going to be good. So without a doubt, my personal opinion, I think the Bills are going to win. To be completely honest, when you look at all of the matchups throughout the entire wild card round, I personally feel like that's the biggest lock. Next up, we have the Bengals taking on the Ravens. Now, obviously, they did just beat the Ravens in Week 18 of the regular season. With that being said, though, they didn't have Mark Andrews. They didn't have Lamar Jackson as starting QB. They didn't even have Tyler Huntley. And again, there are question marks around if Lamar Jackson will even be the starting quarterback for this game. With that being said, though, the Bengals are just red hot. The Bengals are absolutely red hot. And in my opinion, the Bengals taking on the Ravens, again, I think the Bengals are going to win this game. I think that Joe Burrow is probably going to have a monster game. It seems like Jamar Chase always goes off versus the Ravens as well. And I do think this is going to be another one of those classic Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase games, and they've just been dominating, man. They have been very, very hot, and I think they come away with another victory regardless of if Lamar Jackson is the starting quarterback or not. Now getting into the Jags versus the Chargers. This game actually, I think, could be very, very good. Trevor Lawrence has been playing very, very good. That offense has been on fire, and to be honest, guys, I'm more excited about next year with the Jaguars when they actually get Calvin Ridley at wide receiver than this year. I feel like they're going to be even better next year, and they put together a very, very surprising year this year. Trevor Lawrence definitely emerged. With that being said, though, we do also have Justin Herbert on the other side, who is, in my opinion, potentially a top 5 quarterback if most of you guys don't think he is a top 5 QB, and I think he's going to have a monster game. And speaking of Justin Herbert, there's a new special available on Underdog Fantasy right now you guys do not want to miss out on. This is an exclusive special available to you guys. If you use code ZERK when signing up on Underdog Fantasy, you will get this special right here, the Justin Herbert half a completion special on January 12th if you guys sign up by January 11th. Now, also signing up on Underdog Fantasy using code ZERK, it will match your first deposit up to $100. So if you deposit $100, they will match that and give you another $100 to play with. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Underdog Fantasy, it is an app that you can use in states like Florida, California, and more, and you can do pick'ems as well as drafts. Now, with the pick'ems, guys, you can go through and choose between 2 to 5 players for a higher multiplier to go up to 20 times your entry, and you can even use insurance to where if you miss on a pick, you can still win. If you're more into the fantasy football aspect of stuff with building your team through a draft, check out the drafts, and currently there is a gauntlet available, which is a $1 million prize pool tournament for the playoffs. So check out Underdog Fantasy, use code ZERK to match first deposit up to $100, and to get that Justin Herbert special. If you guys check out Underdog Fantasy, do not miss out on that 0.5 completion special for the wildcard weekend with Justin Herbert. Obviously, he's going to get 1 completion, so it's essentially a free line there. Make sure to check that out. But back to the Jags versus the Chargers. In this matchup, I feel like Herbert's going to pull it off. I really feel like Herbert's going to have some magic in him and pull it off there. Now, I do also want to say that Mike Williams was just carted off in this recent game in Week 18. I don't know if he's going to be available to play or not, but I do think that they will pull it off versus the Jags. Now, moving on to the NFC, starting off again at the bottom, we have the 49ers taking on the Seahawks, and the 49ers, even with Brock Purdy, you got to say, they have been surprisingly good, and maybe not so surprisingly because it's just that defense, man. The defense has been incredible. The run game, they just got Elijah Mitchell back as well. Deebo Samuel is ready to go for the playoffs, and Brock Purdy has played pretty good. I, in my opinion, expect Brock Purdy to remain the starter regardless if Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo are available to come back for the playoffs. You would expect that Brock Purdy's probably going to stay as the QB, and taking on the Seahawks here, obviously a division rival. I feel like these games versus division rivals, they're always going to be closer than you may expect, but with that being said, that run game, the defense, it's just too good, man. And I think they're going to pull off the game versus the Seahawks. Now moving on, we have the Vikings versus the Giants, which the Vikings have had some nasty, nasty L's. It really feels like whenever they lose, they don't just lose by a touchdown, they lose by 20 plus. Like, it's really bad. However, I do feel like their biggest weakness is, of course, their secondary, and the Giants, unfortunately so, they're not really the team to take advantage of a just depleted secondary or just a bad secondary in general. The Vikings just have a really bad secondary when it comes to communications and just coverage skills, and they just have not played good. Luckily for them, taking on the Giants in the wild card round, they don't really have stud wide receivers. They don't have people that can really take advantage of that. The Cowboys versus the Buccaneers. This is actually going to be a very good game. My Cowboys, if you guys didn't know, I am a Cowboys fan, did not play good, okay? Week 18, we did not play good. We played terrible. We have to have a bounce back game. And if there's any team, to be completely honest, that I am very scared of facing in the wildcard round, it is the Buccaneers. We lost them in week 1. I feel like we've gotten some players back since week 1 that do make us a better team, but you're still going against Tom Brady in the playoffs, and that is just something that no team wants to see. With that being said, though, I do feel like the Cowboys would pull this off. Week 18, we played terrible. I do feel like we'll come back. Micah Parsons, hopefully he's healthy. I saw some glimpses of a potential hand injury here. However, I do think this is going to be a very close game. Some people may expect this to be a blowout with how good the Cowboys have been, aside from week 18. I think it's going to be, to be honest, a 7-point game or less. Now let's get into the divisional round, and we have the Bengals taking on the Bills, which, of course, was the Week 17 matchup until you guys already know what happened there, which was very unfortunate. With that being said, though, the Bengals came out instantly in that game, and they dropped a touchdown in 2 minutes of that game. They were feeling it. They were red hot. They are going to continue to be red hot. Now, will the Bills combat that, though? Josh Allen, obviously, you guys know about Josh Allen's injury that has been affecting him recently, but he seemed to have the past couple of weeks, being completely honest with you guys, kind of, battled back a little bit. I feel like he's feeling quite a bit more healthy these last couple weeks, and I think this is going to be one of the absolute best games of the entire playoffs. With that being said, though, I think the Bengals come out and they just drop a 35-piece on the Bills, and they advance. Next up, we have the Chiefs taking on the Chargers, and again, another divisional game here, and divisional games are always closer than they need to be. But with that being said, we have Mahomes taking on Herbert, two of the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL, and this is going to be just an absolute battle in this year's playoffs, and also for the next decade, really. Herbert versus Mahomes is always going to be, an amazing game. But I do think that the Chiefs pull this off, and it's going to be a Chiefs versus Bengals conference championship. Next up, moving on to the NFC side, we have the 49ers taking on the Vikings. Now, with the Vikings here, again, when they lose, it's ugly. It's not a little loss. It's a really bad loss. And the 49ers, in my opinion, when it comes to the Vikings, they might be their kryptonite. Although, like I said, the Vikings, really their main issue is the secondary and their pass defense. I just feel like they're going to be outcoached heavily by the 49ers. They're going to be out-schemed, out-coached, and I think they're going to get ground and pounded. And as long as you can take away Justin Jefferson from the Vikings versus Kirk Cousins, I think he chokes big time here, and I think this is not only going to be a loss for the Vikings, but I think it's going to be an ugly loss for the Vikings. Now you have the Cowboys taking on the Eagles, another divisional game here. Now these games have been split 1-1, right? The Cowboys lost to the Eagles early in the year with Cooper Rush at QB. The Cowboys beat the Eagles in the second half of the year with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. So now we finally have Jalen Hurts versus Dak Prescott in the playoffs. Dak Prescott has been throwing a lot of interceptions, not really playing that great, but coming off of a win versus Tampa Bay, Jalen Hurts obviously is kind of nursing that injury right now, but they do get that bye week. They get a week off to go ahead and face the Cowboys. This is going to be a very, very close game either which way, whatever you think about it. If you think it's going to be a blowout, I don't think so. No way. Whichever way you think. If you think the Cowboys are going to blow out the Eagles, it's not going to happen. If you think the Eagles are going to blow out the Cowboys, it's not going to happen. And in my personal opinion, I think at full strength, both of these teams going one-on-one, Cowboys pull out the victory. Now getting into the conference championships, we have the Chiefs taking on the Bengals. And if you guys didn't know this, the Bengals have beat them for the last couple of times they have matched up, and they've all been very, very close games. I believe off the top of my head here, the last 3 times they faced have been the Bengals winning by 3 points, and man, have they been close. They've been very, very close, and I fully expect this to be a, Chiefs-Bengals 70-point game, to be honest. Like, it's going to be a very, very high-scoring game. With that being said, though, I think this is finally the time the Chiefs beat them and advance to the Super Bowl. And then on the NFC side, we have the Cowboys taking on the 49ers, which the Cowboys did face the 49ers last year. And unfortunately, the Cowboys lost that game. And again, what do the 49ers do? They have a great run game, great run defense, and in general, they have a very, very good defense. However, the Cowboys as well, if they manage to pull this off versus the Bucs, versus the Eagles, coming in versus the 49ers, I think they have all the momentum on their side. When you look at the 49ers, they're supposed to beat the Seahawks. They're supposed to beat the Vikings, and then they face the Cowboys, who, in my opinion, pull off a huge upset versus the Eagles. If this is the way it goes, I think they pull this off versus the 49ers, and again, very, very close games. I don't think the Cowboys win any of these playoff games by big numbers. All 7-point or 3-point victories, but I think they advance the Super Bowl versus the Kansas City Chiefs. I'd be thinking, wow, this seems like a very, very biased Cowboys fan here. Well, let's talk about the Super Bowl. We have the Chiefs versus the Cowboys, and the Chiefs, obviously, they're high-powered offense. Travis Kelce is just an amazing tight end, without a doubt, the best tight end in the NFL, and I will tell you guys this right now, as a Cowboys fan, we struggle versus tight ends, right? Travis Kelce is going to have a monster game. Isaiah Pacheco could also have a very, very good game. Now, the Chiefs defense versus the Cowboys offense, I do think the Cowboys will be able to score and keep this a highly competitive game, and it's really, really going to come down to turnovers or sacks, just getting those big-time stops here. And when it comes down to the Chiefs versus the Cowboys, I can't be biased here. I really can't. I think the Chiefs pull this off, and I think the Chiefs are going to be the 2022 to 2023 NFL season Super Bowl champion. So with that being said, guys, you can let me know down below what you think about this. Who do you think is going to be the Super Bowl champion of this year? And in general, who do you think is going to win all these games? Let me know down below what you guys think about bracket. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think certain players are going to have really big games? Whatever it is, make sure you guys check out Underdog Fantasy. Use code ZERK. Do not miss out on that Justin Herbert special. Check out Underdog Fantasy and use code ZERK. If you guys enjoyed this video, check out these.